Alright, I feel like it's been long enough where I have my thoughts in order. I've mulled it over with multiple people. I've really let it sit in about how I feel about Legends Arceus. And it was pretty good. It was decent. I'll start with that. I thought it was at least pretty good. However, it was not great and it was not timeless either. And before we go any further, just as some brief disclaimers, this is going to be extremely spoiler heavy review. Definitely going to get into the meat and potatoes of the later parts of the game because that's where a lot of my analysis lies. And I did beat the game in its entirety. I beat the second final boss. I beat Volo on Spear Pillar. So just getting that out of the way. Spoilers abound, so be wary if you haven't played it by now. And yeah, I thought it was really good. The concept is there. This is what Pokemon should have been, for so long now. It should be this way. We're running around catching Pokemon, and that's great. But a lot of it did not sit well with me in that way, and I think this is because of that formula change. The formula change here is also hurting in some ways, and I'm not really going to get into too deep about the things that made the game great because I think that those have been, reiterated to death. It's free roam-ish Pokemon. You can run all over the place. Pokemon hang out in real life, and you can go catch them. I'd like to talk about the weird relationship that created for me in the game and my relationship with previous Pokemon games. So I think that it was a good game because all that stuff was fun. However, I don't think it was a timeless game. It's a game that I think can only, for me, be enjoyed once, and that's because of, I broke it down in my head in two aspects here. There is mechanical hooks, like I don't know, when I play as Mario. When I play Mario, I have fun. I jump around, and jumping around as Mario is fun. When I consume a story, that would be a plot-related hook. On the other hand, the big surprise, like that, oh, Volo is a bad guy, plot-related hook. I'm never gonna get to enjoy that, like, surprise again, and that was present all throughout the game. The story hinged on mysteries, and I think that it overlent itself to that, where the excitement came from unraveling a mystery, at least on the story side. And this is the first time that Pokemon has really had a story like this, and I think it's a good step, for sure, at the very least. But it leaned very heavily into this mystery element, like what's going on in Sinnoh, why are you here, what's going on with the the totem Pokemon or whatever they're called. Why are the Pokemon getting so upset? And what's going on with the Pearl Clan and the Diamond Clan? Who's right? What's going on? What's the deal with Palkia and Dialga? What's the deal with all these things? And these mysteries, once they're solved, I can really only enjoy them that one time, because now I know, and so much of that time in game is devoted to those mysteries, specifically what's going on in the region. And now that I know, that experience is going to be significantly diminished in a second playthrough. So I don't think that the game has much replayability at all. It's a godsend for shiny hunters. That much is certain. I got plenty of time shiny hunting out of it, but it's not replayable in its base story capacity, and I don't feel this way often with other Pokemon games. I have played up until Gen 7, just for time concerns and my availability to game. I've played every game at least once over, and then again. I've enjoyed the region and with the minimal amount of story multiple times, and I wasn't exactly sure why this was the case at first. And the reason that I've ultimately broke it down to is because of the way that Arceus differs from mainline Pokemon games in terms of the impact of your team. And the experience that I had was that my team was essentially, even my starter. I picked Cyndaquil. I wanted to get that evolution. I managed to not spoil myself on the final evolutions of the new starters. Cyndaquil was the only Pokemon that I consistently kept on my team until the end of the game. And there was no incentive whatsoever to team build or focus on your team, who you were bringing with you in any way, shape, or form until the very end of the game. I was extremely challenged at first by the Volo fight, and my ultimate solution to that was rounding up every legendary I had caught that was of a certain strength level, and my final team was something like Palkia, Regigigas, Uxie, Mesprit, Alzelf, and I remember another Giratina, Regigigas. Maybe it was all legendaries in the end. I couldn't get away from that break, and that made me sad a little bit in a way, because I didn't think that the game had given me any indication that things were going to get that hard that quickly, because the quality of trainer and boss fight before that was either the free roam boss fights that are kind of like the Dark Souls-esque boss fights where you're rolling, getting those iframes, dodging like the electrode bombs, and that didn't involve your team essentially at all. Very, very, very limited actual usage of Pokemon there. And the trainers, up until Volo, were pathetic. They were absolutely pathetic. I can't think of, I don't know, more than like a less than I could count on my hand number amount. The first time around, like I guess the first time on Spear Pillar, the two fights before there, and the ramen bug guy, his team was relatively challenging, but not too difficult. And then the Professor Rowan lookalike guy, his team was challenging, more challenging, but still not that difficult. And then Volo at the very end of the game was incredibly difficult, and I think that was mostly because he also got to cheat a little bit. He got Giratina, and then he got Super Giratina after having a whole team of 6, which, say what you will about that. I did not enjoy him. It was a fitting final bout, but I don't know how I feel about them breaking the established rules up until that point, where the trainer, the only way to make it harder is giving him 8 instead of the pre-allowed 6. And so balancing that experience with my experience in prior ones made me also look at other RPGs, and in comparing let's say like Pokemon Red, Yellow, Blue to Final Fantasy in any capacity, for the most part you are stuck with a static team. They don't call it like 4 guys in a row fighting a boss games for nothing, because you get a party, you're stuck with that party, and you get minimal options. I think I think of Final Fantasy VII, where there's a couple of extra party members, but nothing, not anywhere near the amount of variety you get in Pokemon, the amount of options and choices that you do. So when I play Pokemon, like even just all the way back, Red, Blue, Yellow, that's fine. They're all this way, except for Legends Arceus. Each and every time I play the game, I know what's going to happen in the story. I know Team Rocket is going to do their pathetic thing to take over Silph Co. That's whatever. But I get a different party each time, and that makes me feel like a different player each time. And that starts right at the beginning of the game. I'm either the Charmander trainer, the Bulbasaur trainer, or the Squirtle trainer. And that's a huge difference in how the game is played, because that goes all throughout the game, starting with the first gym leader, Brock. I'm gonna have to handle it with at least there's 3 variables there from the beginning of the game. How am I gonna tackle this boss? Well, I can lead with my grass guy, or I can use my water user, or I'm gonna have to figure something else out, because fire does not work against rock, and there's already an element of variability there. Even if I pick the same team every time, the emphasis on the fights makes it so that the experience is significantly different. I have to focus on different things. I have to prioritize different things, and that just wasn't there for me in Legends Arceus. The Pokemon catching, plenty of fun, But to what purpose? I didn't get to, like, play with them or, like, hang out with them in any meaningful capacity, and I would add Pokemon to my team on a whim and at random, almost, because of, just happening upon a Pokemon that was higher level than the ones in my party. And, like, grinding was essentially non-existent. I know that that's something that people like to say that they want, and I'm not sure exactly how badly people actually want that, but I think a good healthy amount of grinding is possible. There's a reasonable amount of grinding in a game where you can take the party you want and the strategy you want and use it meaningfully, because you can grind up XP. And I mean, it is called the grind for a reason, but I think that it has a really meaningful place in Pokemon, because you find, like, baby Pokemon, find a Pokemon low level. I really want to put Chimchar on my team, but Chimchar's only level 2, so I'm gonna have to figure something out because I already have 7 badges. And just being able to randomly add Pokemon to my team, and the trainers not being very good at all. Most of them only having, I'd say, 3 tops. I remember most of the boss fights. And it goes along with that story that there was some narrative building there where it's like, oh, people are not familiar with Pokemon. If they are, they have 1 or 2 chosen partners, and people are figuring this out. People are working on it. But that doesn't make an automatically great game experience for me, because the lore makes sense. Because I tried to play it like normal, and maybe that's a fault of my own, but it was still Pokemon. And at the end of the game, almost seemingly overnight, I was approached with other characters who also knew how to play Pokemon. They had full teams of 6, and they were boss fights. And that was refreshing, but also frustrating in a way, because the game had not been building me towards that. And go ahead, I'm like, sure, I'm a scrub. I'm complaining about the boss at the end of the game being hard, and it doesn't really matter if the boss at the end of the game was hard, medium, or easy. The game needs to progress you in terms of difficulty towards the final boss fight. We need to have ramping intensity before the final climax at the end of the mountain that is the game that you're playing, especially in an RPG. These things need to work on an approachable curve by the player where ramping intensity is paramount. And Arceus goes total flatline, Spear Pillar, Volo, like all the way up here. The Volo's like, totally off screen. That fight took me for a loop, and I don't think that it would have been that hard with the same team if the game had done a better job of letting me know that that's on the way. If you steamroll everybody before that point, and you're like, what's happening here? Is the challenge in the Dark Souls fights? Because I'm steamrolling everybody I run into, and then suddenly you've got these super difficult bosses, and that just does not work. That for actual gameplay, for actual Pokemon, that does not fly for me. And I really did not enjoy that being a part of the game. It was really confusing to have the game tell me those things, and I don't think that it was something I could have easily inferred either. It was not transmissed information in a simple way. It was wrapped in the mystery, and that honestly made it even more difficult, because the difficulty was entrenched in the mystery. They're not directly connected, but the narrative elements at play, like it was a secret that there were trainers that actually knew what they're doing, and then once you get there, the secret is just totally ripped off all in one moment. The curtain goes away all at once, and then suddenly you're in front of these bosses that you're not prepared for at all, because the status quo is, like having like a Glaceon, and that's it, or a Leafeon, and that's the end of it. So these two factors together really did not work well, and that's why I think that the game is just not timeless. It is a good game for the Breath of the Wild elements. It is a good game for the story elements. I'd like to touch on those briefly here, because that was really the hook for me, was the mystery, was the story. Getting to slowly unwrap Ingo's backstory was lovely. Even though I already knew a little bit about Ingo as a character, they did a really, really good job of adding a mystery to an already existing character, because it's Ingo from the current timeline in the Pokemon games, and he's in a similar situation to you, except he's a little bit worse off, and he's missing his life partner. He's missing his train buddy, and that's just not good. That's terrible for him. It was incredibly heartfelt. I was moved by his story, but I wouldn't be moved again, as I've been saying. And the mysteries were great. I didn't see a lot of the things coming, and usually Pokemon games are relatively telegraphed in terms of their mysteries. Like, what? N is a bad guy? Well, it's relatively obvious. You know, he's got the same color hair as that one guy, and he shows up whenever Team Plasma does, and he wears their colors and kind of talks like they do. So no, I was not that surprised by that. But the guy who's serving you food the entire game approaches you before you get to Spear Pillar and says, like, I've been tasked with watching you, and I'm like, oh my gosh, an actual surprise in a Pokemon game? Like, I'm floored. I am absolutely floored. And then you get up there, and Kamado's got a boss team, just a team of absolute sluggers. Again, floored. And there's that duality. I was floored through the discovery of the mystery, through the narrative. The story rocked. Everything up until this point. The mysteries it was hinging on, getting to actually talk to characters in a Pokemon game, that's huge. Getting to actually have conversations with these characters was magnificent, and getting to learn about characters, and characters almost even having something akin to an arc, was incredible. And again, that was so present with Ingo. The entire experience of walking through the cave with Ingo and learning about him, I think is really the prime example for all of these. These characters actually have a personality, even if it is a little one note. They are willing to tell you about it, but now that I've experienced that, and it is contrasted with these spikes in difficulty that complement the narrative but not gameplay, that's it. I've enjoyed it because the curtain is removed, and I don't think that I don't even think I could play it again. And I know it wouldn't be fun. I don't think that I could play it again. And you know, that's not of prime importance to everyone, and that's totally fine. Replayability is really important to me with these Pokemon games, because there's so many Pokemon, and there's so many ways to tackle the challenges that they usually put in front of you. If I want to have a team of Dunsparce, then like, let's give it a go. But and even in a less extreme way, like, this time I want to rock with a bug type. You know, this time I really want to see what playing through the game with Noctowl is like. And that's a totally different party member for challenges based on your party members. And it can feel almost like an entirely different game, because, you know, those story elements, minimal, but like the adventure that I'm going on, the adventure of Drew and Bulbasaur is significantly different than the adventure of Drew and Squirtle, because of the challenges that we have to overcome. And then we write our own story in that way. And so I just hope that you know, that's more incorporated. And it seems like Scarlet and Violet is going to be in that direction. It seems more of a traditional game, and that Arceus was maybe a tech demo of sorts for Scarlet and Violet, you know, assuming they bring back like gym fights and more linear pathing and a focus on battling, and maybe even VGC in there. I hope that we get the ability to do VGC stuff this time. It'll be a perfect balance. Great game, great story, but Arceus really dropped the ball in terms of being a timeless classic, like I usually find good Pokemon games to be, and it was surprising. subscribe. And I don't know, let me know what you think. I feel strangely about this, so I'd love to get more opinions on the matter. And if you haven't already, like and subscribe. See you later, besties.